Good day, friends. This is Bob with the 81st episode of News with Views. Hey, it's reached 81, man. I'm quite excited. What do we have here? It's interesting to see how China is tactically retreating on, whether it is India allowing a perception that maybe they're okay with Ladakh, etc. Again, something that cannot be trusted. Also trying their level best to trying to contain ASEAN. But here, there are many reasons at play, right? And one of the principal reasons is obviously in Ladakh, we have the command of the heights. And we should not give it up, as I said, not till we reach May, folks. No way, Jose. You gotta give it as good as you get. Second is they're worried. I mean, their troops are not having it easy. So they're kind of worried. The main thing that's happening, folks, is with now Biden almost president-elect and presidency, and his thoughts are out in the open. It's a multilateral effort to contain China, and contain China it is. So what you're having is China found that right out of the box, as soon as the election was announced, you had UK, Germany, France, Japan, Australia, and South Korea in welcoming the victory of Joe Biden. India has jumped into the same space, right? So China had this misconceived. They always think that they can play their game just like Russia, actually. It's all the communist parties. None of them can be done. Putin, Lavrov, not at all. Xi, not at all. They thought they could actually build a kind of, using money, they could kind of build a divide in the democracy. And thank God for what is happening now, that divide is now shut down. And hopefully the democracies, which include India, can get together to counter the Chinese. And here, we have the commanding heights. That's a real advantage. That's what it is. There's a softness now towards ASEAN. They're trying to play the game of South China Sea. But look at what happened. Russia and China kind of put in the ASEAN that any military exercises or any business or drilling of oil must need the permission of China. How the hell do they think they are, folks? Unbelievable. Thank God India pushed back on that immediately, right? And it's like, and the other thing is that cooperation with the US is critical as it helps in softening the Chinese regime. So for us, it is important. The US continues to be critical for us. Anybody who thinks that we are critical, that's just both sides, I think, right? And here's an important report that came out. China perceives rising India as rival. US State Department report, which is just true, right? There's no denying that. A lot of people would read into this that this is US's play or play acting to ensure that India shifts toward the other. There's nothing. This is the truth, right? Our nose has been bloodied. China perceives rising India as a rival and seeks to impel it to accommodate Beijing's ambitions by engaging economically while constraining New Delhi's strategic partnership with the US, Japan, Australia, and its relations with other democracies. The reports, and that's true. This is what they're trying, right? China, it said, seeks to diminish US influence by fostering a sense in the region's nations that China's dominance is inevitable. And let me just tell you, it is absolutely not. Prime targets include US treaty-based allies Japan, South Korea, Australia, Thailand, and the Philippines, as well as the emerging strategic partners such as India, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Taiwan. If all of these fall into America's hand, China is toast, right? And here's what I see. I just see no reason India, China to hold another round of talks soon, say they be. The South Bloc has let us down on many occasions, including not standing up to Modi when he was doing and telling him that it was not a good idea to do Wuhan, it was not a good idea to that Mapalipuram or whatever that's called. Absolutely, because look, so while they're playing the game in Ladakh, look at what's happening here. Amid standoff in North, PLA builds military infra in the East, and not only infra in the East, there was news in Vishnu Som was suggesting, or actually there's the Twitter out from somebody in China which says that they've built a village 2 kilometers into Bhutan, exactly where the India was a standoff for the Doklam. What did we do in Doklam? We patted the Prime Minister on the back, we called him a nationalist, but hey, we've let them down again. What are we going to do here? And rightly says, folks, China preparing for long haul along LAC. Let us just not give up on that. China is not going away, folks. Let not the I'm not sure where talks can go. I'm not, maybe the Ministry of External Affairs and South Bloc, just to prove its usefulness, keeps talking about talks. And the one person you shouldn't trust here is absolutely Russia. More after the break. Welcome back. While we are focused on what's happening in the United States, how it's going to deal with China, etc., let's keep our eye open in our neighborhood, where it seems like that there's some kind of a unraveling of a string of pearls for China, and a small opening that may be provided to India if we play our cards right. The first of it is what's happening in Myanmar. Standing with Mother Sue. Myanmar election results point to the enduring popularity of Aung San Suu Kyi, despite her party's patchy record in government. I think what we really need to do is, besides hunkering down with Aung San Suu Kyi, just like we did with Sheikh Hasina, is important now to bring her back and build the bridges between Myanmar and the United States and the West. This is absolutely critical, right? This is why I say this is because of this note. Just read this. Pivotal Myanmar. The Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal are fast becoming new flashpoints in the Sino-Indian strategic maritime competition. What is this? Chinese intention to make inroads into the Bay of Bengal had become clear with President Xi Jinping's visit to Myanmar in January. The intention was not just to boost infrastructure projects in Myanmar, but also increase China's influence in the region. Then what does it say? Being the conduit between the Western Indian Ocean and South China, the Bay of Bengal enjoys immense geostrategic influence in strategies of Asia's rising power. It is also a linchpin of any successful Indo-Pacific strategy. If the Quad countries, the US, India, Japan, and Australia continue to push for a close alliance against China. First, China's development of the Kyapayu port will entrench its naval presence in the IOR on the pretext of developing infrastructure. Second, the Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal are fast becoming new flashpoints in the Sino-Indian strategic maritime competition. Very important. Like a third, Myanmar is a key influencer for China's ambitions in the Indian Ocean. It is not only a gateway to the Bay of Bengal, but is also a strong member of the ASEAN nation. Then, for New Delhi, securing the Indian waters is of utmost priority, which otherwise would intensify the maritime security dilemma, yet India has been complacent. It has. Now, Andaman and Nicobar has become critical. Like I said, if the United States is going to launch the first fleet, why not make Andaman and Nicobar the headquarters for it? So while the government of Myanmar and China hailed the Xi visit as a tremendous success, many other key stakeholders issued statements expressing reservations. More than 50 civil societies groups published an open letter. So there is an open society where India really needs to act. However, these are things that are important. Myanmar chooses Indian subs over Chinese. Important. Then, Myanmar has acknowledged this. Myanmar terror outfits arms itself with Chinese weapons, and Myanmar has come out and actually pointed fingers at China for supporting terror. So here are the important points. Same thing is happening if you've noted in Nepal. All of a sudden you see that the hot under the collar, the ambassador lady from China who's working the phones, her fingers, her legs to ensure that the Communist Party does not break up. But there is fear in Nepal now that China has gone and encroached 2 kilometers into Nepal. What the hell do they do, right? But India should continue now hands on. Forget the hands off, because that hasn't worked either. Okay, so here India's best friend in Nepal, the Indian Army Chief, is a good step in sustaining military ties, and that's really critical. So it's only fitting that the Army Chief is going to Nepal as a gesture of India's commitment to maintaining institutional ties with the key elements of the Nepali state. The Nepal Army has been clear that the relationship with India is important, and even while engaging with China, has resisted its government's attempt to drag it into geopolitical games. Irrespective of the ebb and flows of the political relationship between the two countries, the fact that the military channel is strong can only and better understanding and serve mutual interests. Absolutely, folks. It is time that the Nepalese realize that they are being sold down the drain by their leadership to China. More after the break. Folks, Here's an interesting piece of news from our power minister. Solar gear production for 35,000 megawatt capacity on cars. This is what I've been talking about, right? This is where we need a whole bunch of investment. We don't have the money, let's face it. It's only going to come from overseas. Now with Biden's presidency, obviously a huge leg up for renewables. Lots of money in solar. It's been, and we can see that with a lot of solar assets sold. And here's what we talk about. It's exactly what I've been saying. Is an article by Nitin Pal which says India should create bubbles of trust with its geopolitical allies. It says a few months ago, this column had argued that the tech war between the United States and China is being fought across a flexible, porous bamboo curtain, and India's interests lie in staying out of the sinosphere while creating circles of bubbles of trust with the US, Japan, Taiwan, Australia, Singapore, and South Korea that will help Indian companies, professionals, and consumers find themselves in circles of opportunity. Even if political changes around the world kindle interest in multilateral approaches to world trade, technology, and climate change, New Delhi must prioritize deepening relationship with its geopolitical allies. There I said the word. Like air bubbles for international travel during the pandemic, first create bubbles of trust bilaterally with strategic partners and then explore whether these can coalesce into larger bubbles that include more countries. That's absolutely what we need to do. And this can be bubbles of technology, bubbles of labor movement, bubbles for agriculture, can be bubbles for everything. New Delhi will have to focus on 4 areas: strengthening geopolitical convergences, increase faith in each other's judicial systems, deepen economic ties, and boost other countries' trust in one's citizens. All 4 are necessary to create bubbles of trust. Bubbles are fragile things that need careful handling, and thus a suitable metaphor to think about the relationship of trust that India builds with its partners. We are asking countries in the Quad and beyond to trust us with their money, intellectual property, data, and the security of their most sensitive computer systems. Just remember that, folks. We are asking them. How well we create and maintain bubbles of trust will determine the extent of which Indian businesses and citizens can exploit opportunities of a world where politics heavily influence economies. Important. And just as I said that, here's a shared India-US values could spur tech growth. That's absolutely, as US returns to its core values, may offer India an opportunity to frame its tech market rules accordingly. As a high decibel US draws to an end, the total stock of US direct investment FDI India stood at 45.9 billion last year, 20 times greater than the cumulative Chinese FDI. So forget China, folks, forget China. However, the Joe Biden administration will probably ask for a stable environment for American enterprises as a precondition to support Indian rights. Look at what China is up to. Zambia default test G20. There was some 3 billion of bonds owed globally, 12 billion of debt, out of which 9.3 billion is debt, folks, to China, right? And here we have, which is where we need to be really careful and helpful. China extends reach in Caribbean, unsettling the US. China has offered Jamaica loans and expertise to build miles of new highways through the Caribbean. It has donated security equipment to military and police forces and built a network of Chinese cultural centers. Important when they go after these islands, folks, is fishing. Fish is the next big fight. That is why China is growing globally, because, you know, they're short of protein globally. That's what's going to happen. Fish is your next goal. That's why they don't want to do an FTA with Sri Lanka. That's why they want to do an FTA with Maldives. FTA with the what's it called, with the Caribbean. But here, the Caribbean should see the example of what's happening in Zambia. It's going to exactly happen to them, folks. And as we get to pulverize, SEC pursues audit plan for Chinese firms. US market watchdog pushes plan to delist Chinese firms. Then you have India, and that's it, folks. China is up the creek without a paddle. Let's ensure it doesn't get a paddle. Jai Hind.